So guys, we tested a little bit of the performance of the Eurofighter, the Rafale, and I want to continue to do those videos, but before we do that, I really wanted to compare the SU-33 with a normal SU-27 to see how much worse or better is the SU-33, because there is a lot of misconceptions about these aircraft. Some people say it's just worse because, you know, it's heavier. Some people say it's way better. So let's put it to the test with the normal test that we did. We did these tests in the same maps, both aircraft, in the same situations, same tests, you know what I mean, with the same fuel level, same loadouts, everything. So minimal fuel, no loadouts, just to test the proper performance of the aircraft, okay? So let's get to the results that we had. The weight with minimal fuel with the SU-33 was 22 tons and with the SU-27 was 19.8. So clearly here we have a 2.2 difference in tonnage on the aircraft, which is quite a lot, I gotta say. That's the thing, that's going to be the major thing about this aircraft. It is a lot heavier because of the naval stuff that the aircraft needs to land on a carrier, right? Which becomes a problem. But then we have an interesting thing on the thrust. So the SU-33 is heavier, but what about the thrust, right? Because if you take a look on the actual static kind of power and in the hangar and stuff, you will notice that the AL-31 that the SU-33 uses is stronger than the SU-27. But is that realistic to expect? Well, that's the funny part. This is thrust that we have in the hangar. You can even test it with the War Thunder real-time information. It's basically the static thrust, the thrust that the engine produces when the aircraft is standing still, with no optimal intake of air, right? So when that is happening, when you are standing still, the SU-33 produces a 252 kilonewtons with the two engines, right? And SU-27 produces 232 kilonewtons. So yeah, that's pretty good, right? It means that it produces around 20 kilonewtons more with the SU-33 than with the SU-27. So yeah, even though it's heavier, it is producing more power, right? Well, not really. That's the thing. When you are static, yes, the SU-33 will produce more power. But when you put the aircraft in an optimal condition of power, the max power that the engines produce, they produce the exact same, 304 kilonewtons. So both of the engines, the SU-27 one and the SU-33 one. So counting with both engines in each aircraft, of course. They produce around 151, 152 kilonewtons each engine, right? But you can see that the advantage that the SU-33 has is only when it's standing still, which actually makes a lot of sense. Why? Because these engines, in real life, they did not have more power than the SU-27's one, unless it was used in an extra power mode for takeoff in the carrier. So it makes a lot of sense that in War Thunder, when we have a more simplified way of dealing with things to make up for being more of a game, you know, we have more static power, 20 kilonewtons in the static power. But when it comes down to actual power, when you are flying, you know, with air being admitted through the engines, they produce the same power. So although, yes, the SU-33 is heavier, you still have pretty much the same power as the SU-27 when you are flying. When you are static for a takeoff, then you have more power. So the SU-33, with the extra weight, it will basically have the same, you know, almost the same acceleration and stuff. It's just to this extra power static is just to make up for the extra weight of being a naval aircraft, to be able to carry with a heavy loadout in a carrier, right? So kind of funny, isn't it? But the thrust to weight with the optimal conditions, you can even see that in a better way, right? The SU-27 has a 1.55 thrust to weight ratio and the SU-33 has a 1.38, which means that it's a lot worse, you know. So overall, you can see that going through the actual acceleration times that I normally do, right? So I normally do 3 acceleration tests. I do one from 0 on the airfield to Mach 1 acceleration, Of course, Mach 1 to Mach 1.5 at 5 kilometers and Mach 1.5 to 2 at 10 kilometers altitude, right? From 0 to Mach 1, the SU-33 recorded a 42-second time to accelerate to Mach 1, while the SU-27 was 38. So not a lot, but it's still worse. The SU-33 is worse. The Mach 1 to 1.5, 1 minute and 12 seconds for the SU-33 and 52 seconds for the SU-27. So a lot worse, a lot worse. And in the 1.5 to 2 is even worse. Of course, it has larger wings and it has canards and stuff. Those produce more drag as well. So the faster you go, the worse it will become, right? So at these speeds, 1.5 to 2, it will be 1 minute 39 seconds for the SU-33 and 1 minute and 10 seconds for the SU-27, becoming even worse. So at the end of the day, guys, in general performance with accelerating and everything, the SU-33 is a lot worse, a lot worse. Some minor differences here and there in some situations in lower airspeeds, but in a general sense, in higher airspeeds and stuff, it will basically become just a heavier version of the SU-27. But Matt, the aircraft has a better turning capability, doesn't it? Well, that's the thing, right? It can actually do well with turning. So the SU-33 will be kind of like what the SU-34 was or is, right? Compared to the SU-27. The SU-27 can out-accelerate and maintain a dogfight in a way better way than the SU-34, but the SU-33, because of the canards and the extra power in lower airspeeds and stuff, you can, and the extra wing and everything, you know, it will be able to pull more AOA. It will be able to pull more Gs and turn a little bit more. In a consequence with that, it will lose more energy because also it has more weight to it. So at the end of the day, the SU-33, it's kind of a trade-off that you have. You will have a little bit more turn and you will be able to do some very impressive Cobra maneuvers. I wasn't able to actually do the Super Cobra or the Cobit, you know, properly like the SU-34 can. But the SU-33 can do almost a Super Cobra. It can do very, very good maneuvers. And yeah, that can be very useful. Way better Cobra post-stall maneuverability than the SU-27. Way, way better. Like, it doesn't even compare itself to it, right? But at the same time, you lose a lot more energy. And in a normal turn, it will turn more than the SU-27, but it will lose more energy. And you will eventually lose the dogfight if you don't get the kill quickly, right? So this is the idea behind the SU-33. It's a heavier SU-27 that technically can turn more, but it will lose more energy. It's basically a trade-off, which is kind of sad, I gotta say. We will really like see the proper advanced flankers when you start to see the SU-27M, SU-37, SU-35s that really bring more power to the table that will help with the better turn. But at the end of the day, even the SU-34's engine, which is one of the strongest engines the Russians ever put in a flanker, still produces around the same power, a little bit more, just a little, like 6 kilonewtons or something like that of thrust in the optimal condition. So all these engines, they're just producing more power in the lower airspeed kind of scenarios. These what I mean is these upgrades to the original SU-27 engine, right? But at the end of the day, you know, it's not that useful. Okay, so because in the high ends, in the air, when air is getting into these engines, they are producing pretty much the same power. So it's kind of funny, but it makes sense. It makes sense. Okay, guys. But yeah, basically this is what you can expect from the SU-33 to be an SU-27 that is heavier. I don't know if you heard, but Laika is always with me, of course. And yeah, she wanted to say hi for you guys. So I see you guys on the next one. Make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, and leave a like. And yeah, me and Laika are saying bye. So bye.